What's up, guys? Intellitech Studios here, and by popular request, and that's saying something because I did a poll and this machine won in a massive blowout. You guys overwhelmingly voted for the Bissell CleanView 9595 to be my next Bissell vacuum review, and I'm delivering. This particular machine is not only the best machine that I've tried in the CleanView series to date, it's also a really, really good vacuum. And it's my favorite machine that bears the CleanView name, period, the end. Yes, while my specific experience with repairing vacuums going all the way back to 2005 does have to credit the original CleanView, this machine stomps it in every single way. This is better than the CleanView. It's better than the CleanView 2. It's better than the CleanView Helix because it eliminates the filter design of those machines. It eliminates the dust cup design of those machines, which were their biggest weaknesses. Even with machines that came out around the same time as this, like the Power Grid Multicyclonic, those machines filtered horribly. And it really ruined those machines because if you saw my Power Grid Multicyclonic review, you would know that the machine would have been an excellent machine that I would wholeheartedly recommend, but the filtration setup ruined it. And it ruined it to the point where it completely invalidated the rest of the machine. Because what good is the cleaningness of the machine if you have to wash the filter every single time you vacuum a room? And with even that, it's still going to bypass a lot of dust through the motor and kill your motor over time. It's just not worth it. This Bissell CleanView 9595 does not suffer that problem at all. Even when I used it for massive cleaning jobs, where I filled the bin to the max line 3 times in a row, the filter was still perfectly fine. It was a bit dirty, but it was very reasonable in terms of how dirty the filter had gotten. In fact, I've filled this bin a few times since I last cleaned it out. You can press this gray button to remove the bin and press this purple button. It's purple in this color, and you can pull up and get the filter. So just this little yellow sponge, you just wash this. I recommend washing this probably every maybe 3 times you empty the bin. Even though the full line is down here, you really can empty it once it gets up here to once this red part stops and this gray part begins. That's the true fill line. Bissell just puts this down here, not to actually say that this is the true capacity, but to say that so that way whenever people inevitably overfill it, they see that and empty it before the actual fill line. That's why these companies put their fill lines way lower than they otherwise would be. It's because normal customers are going to overfill it. Now, if you look on the back of it, it does show you how to maintain it. This particular yellow filter that I just showed you is washable. It doesn't say how often to do it. I personally would recommend maybe every 3 months, I would say. It's probably pretty common on this because I've been using this pretty heavily and I don't see any need to wash it just yet. There's also a replaceable filter that's underneath that I'll show you right now. And this button empties the bin into the trash. Now the entire cyclone is also held in place with screws, which I love because it means that this entire cyclone can be easily disassembled and cleaned, just like a lot of the newer TTI Hoovers and unlike pretty much every Dyson. So I do really like that feature. The cyclone is easy to remove and clean out with just a basic Phillips head screwdriver. So anyone can disassemble this and give it a deep clean. Now if we look underneath here where we pull out this filter, we have a HEPA filter right here that we just push out, and you can change this. Now this particular one still has a bit of life left in it. I'd recommend changing this about every year, but again, it depends on your usage. It just slides right back in there and clips in right down there. Now it is still a little bit loose in there, so this is not a sealed system. This is not for anyone with allergies, but it's still a huge improvement over the previous CleanViews, so credit where credit is due. It's not a sealed system. Don't buy this for the filtration unless you are upgrading from an older CleanView, because frankly, anything is better than those machines in terms of filtration. Now, the rest of this design is pretty typical Bissell. You've got a 5-position height adjustment. You've got no brush roller shutoff, so this is not for bare floors. You've got your basic pedal release on the side, which is prone to breaking. Not as much as other Bissells, but it still can break. And you still have the double pedal to get underneath stuff. Although, again, the Cyclone is pretty tall, so this is like the perfect height to get underneath my basic coffee table. But anything beyond that, you're going to struggle to get underneath it because of the Cyclone. You've got your power switch on the side, which I prefer to a foot switch. It is mounted pretty low, even compared to other Bissells. So you basically could just push it with your foot. But yeah, a lot of people have complained about how low that is. But they did make an upgraded model with the power button right here. You can even see the molding for it. And I actually do have that model, and I'll review it at a later date, which that model also has a cord rewind. And because it has a cord rewind that takes up this space, it also has a slightly smaller bin. On the back, we've got our 25-foot cord. I wish it was a little bit longer. You know what I always say, 30 feet is preferable, 35 is pretty much perfect. This is a little short, but for the $100 that you would spend, it's perfectly in line with most other machines. It's the same length as the competing Shark Navigator lift-away, so that's pretty much what you'd expect. You've got a pretty small extension wand. If you compare this to like an old Power Force, this is a bit shorter, but if you're comparing this to a CleanView, they've always been this size. Same with the crevice tool. They've always been this size. You don't have any less reach than you otherwise would, and that just clips on right there. You've got a dusting brush right here, which actually slots in underneath this hose. Now, when my fiance used this the other day, he actually struggled to get this back on and ended up just kind of shoving it right there. But there's this little slot right in there that it just slides into. So it's easy enough to kind of knock it out. But as long as you're mindful about where it goes, it's pretty easy to remember where that goes. We also have a turbo brush right here. And this turbo brush is excellent. This is better than any of the other modern Bissell turbo brushes. I've demonstrated this a few times in the past, and it works very well. It's also very easy to clean with no tools required. You just twist this gray thing. Now you can open it up to clean it out. Very nice. And that just slots in right up here. We also have a cord clip right here. Now the hose just pulls out just like typical Bissell. Now, because it goes in at an angle, it's a little awkward to get in. And this hose doesn't stretch a whole lot. It's not the best in terms of stretchiness, though I do like the actual grip on this. This is better than the hose wands that were on the Power Forces because this isn't very long and cumbersome, although that does mean you lose some extra reach, but it's easy enough to buy extra extension wands if you so choose. And the hose just wraps around this and back down into here. So that's pretty self-explanatory enough. Now, of course, this uses the same Bissell Style 7 belts and same brush roller that every modern Bissell uses. This particular model is the standard 13-inch path. It's not the wide cleaning path. This is the superior width in my opinion. It's easier to get into smaller spaces, and the wide cleaning path does bleed off some of the airflow that otherwise would be concentrated on a design like this. So another reason why I really like this particular model of CleanView, despite it being the base model of its generation. Now, my experience as far as the cleaning performance has been excellent. I've had no issues with this machine's ability to clean carpets, and after using a machine like the Shark Stratos that does not clean carpets well at all, this particular machine is a breath of fresh air in that regard, at least in terms of cleaning performance. That's not a literal breath of fresh air, since again, not a sealed system, but hey, it does clean well, and the filtration's, at least like I mentioned earlier, now at the point where it's acceptable. So to show the cleaning performance, I'm going to switch this over to the Intellitech Studios pickup test. It is now time for the Intellitech Studios pickup test. As per usual, we have potato flakes and some scent beads sprinkled throughout the carpet, bare floor, and the transition between the two. For the carpets, I'm going to have the machine on medium, and for the bare floor, I'm going to put it on the setting that says bare floor, and I put that in quotes because the brush roller does not shut off and there isn't even a squeegee, so this is not recommended for bare floors at all. I do not recommend it at all for bare floors, but we're going to see how it performs. If it performs good enough, then maybe If you have bare floors in nothing but your bathroom and kitchen, and you have a small enough house where there isn't a lot of bare floor, then maybe you can get away with it. Still wouldn't recommend it though, especially considering that something like a Bissell 3-in-1 stick vac is only $20, and that will take care of your bare floors. I do recommend that as a solution, but in a pinch, let's just see how it does for fun. It is worth noting that this machine still has its original belt on it, so the belt is starting to squeal a little bit. But looking at the carpet clean performance, and yeah, pretty good. There was a couple flakes that I just discovered, unearthed. So yeah, pretty good. Like I mentioned, there's a couple flakes close to the transition strip. There is a little bit of debris. It's worth noting that I did just do the 4870 test, and I forgot to clean out this space of the debris that it left behind, so take what's there with a grain of salt. But the carpet itself is fine, and the floor, a couple flakes, but again, not too bad. It's not perfect on floors, but it will do fine in a pinch. It's just, again, not recommended because the brush roll is on, so not only does it risk scattering debris and scratching your floors, it also is potentially able to cause damage to the machine over time, as that exceeded vibration will often cause the brush roller to essentially wear away part of the internal housing, which means the brush will not sit in the housing properly. It'll start buzzing back and forth because it doesn't fit properly, and then you start having issues with your machine down the road. So that's why I don't recommend using it on floors, despite the fact that it does do pretty okay. But hey, you could do it in a pinch. It's more so designed for carpets. And the carpet clean performance, as we can see, is very representative of what I experienced using the machine in the real world, and that's very good. The final thing that I'll mention about this machine is this handle. It looks very funky, I know, and it's very long. I always usually hold my vacuum handles right at the edge, and there's a little notch right here to put your hand. And even though this looks very awkward because you would think that the weight would be a good amount because of how long this is, it's actually not. If you're familiar with Eureka's back saver handle on their old Victory and Whirlwind machines, it reminds me very much of that, even though it is technically facing the wrong direction. I found this to be extremely comfortable, and this machine is very easy to maneuver despite the fact there's no swivel steering, because this handle is very nice. And normally budget machines don't have really nice handling, especially compared to the newer CleanViews where these handles feel like cheap trash, but this feels great. It feels sturdy, it feels rugged, and overall, I'm very, very happy with the handling and the performance of this machine. So my overall evaluation of this is it's a shame that it's no longer available, because while I haven't quite used the new CleanViews yet, I have used the Powerlifter Swivel Pet, which is very similar to the CleanView swivel that is available. In fact, I just picked one up. It's very dirty, so I will try to fix it up and see if we can't do a review on that. But there's also a version without a swivel that I'll probably review at some point and compare it to this as well. But I don't suspect at all that it will change my opinion on this machine, which is that it's the best CleanView that Bissell has ever made. And the 12 amp motor is also not too loud. Despite it being 12 amps, it sounds and feels much quieter than any other Bissell of this style that I've used, which also adds to the pleasantness of using this machine. So as an upright vac, it's very nice for the price. And for the $100 that you could get this for brand new just a couple short years ago, it was a pretty good deal, and one that got a wholehearted thumbs up from me. But as is, you can't find these anymore. But if you find one of these for sale, used in decent condition for around 30 bucks or less, go for it. At least if you're specifically wanting a bagless machine for carpets. This machine is excellent, and the performance and design improvements that Bissell has made to this design compared to the previous CleanViews deserves a round of applause because it took them long enough to fix it. It's just a shame that it seems like they've undone all their progress with the newer CleanViews, not in terms of filtration, but in terms of design and build quality. But again, I'm going to reserve judgments for when I try the new machine. But as is, this is my favorite CleanView and the one that I recommend you try to find. So anyways, this is Intellitech Studios signing out with my full in-depth review of the Bissell CleanView OnePass Model 9595A. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Peace.